Moving forward, we have to disconnect all these things that we don't need underneath here that are causing us problems. And so the first thing that I was able to remove quite easily was this piece down here. The only wire that seemed to be connected was our ground wire. So once I disconnected that, all of this other stuff was just shoved up underneath the dash, wasn't connected to anything. So that's easily removed. So I'm starting off with the OBD reader here. I just unscrewed that, got that down, and what we got is we got something connected into our purple and white and black wire. So I'm going to disconnect this, but I would like to know what is it and why is it connected into there. We go back to the manual here at 8W-30-16. We're looking at our data link connector. This page specifically targets those two wires, white and black, and then our purple wire. And then it comes down and we've got a common connection with the purple to the body control module, and then some of these various other components here, driver's door, passenger door, seatbelt modules. So this is basically, I just want to know what I'm disconnecting and what it's connected to. So this could be part of that anti-theft system, which would basically, if the door was opened, it would activate the alarm, is what I'm thinking. When we remove that black tape, the good news is that they're soldered connections. So all we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut the side off here with these extra wires. And with that soldered connection, we can be pretty confident that our factory wiring should be still intact and operational. I targeted the antenna that sticks to the windshield, so I took that off of there, followed the wiring down, and it comes to here. So we got that disconnected. This box here, notice once we've disconnected these two wires that went to the data link connector and we follow the rest of it in here, we've got a plug that goes to there, and then we've got two wires that are going into this Viper module. So simply cut these off, unplug that, and that takes care of this. Looks like there's another blue wire that goes to this connector over here. I'll cut that off, and then we've got this out, and then really what we're looking at is the main body here. Connections, and disconnect those. Here it is disconnected. These two went to the data link connectors. These two here, they were connected to the main body, and then this just unplugged. So we got that out of the way. Looks to be we got a couple of switches here and a ground. We trace that back and we can cut that out, cut this out, and then if you follow this wire, that's another plug connection we can disconnect. There it is there. After we've made those cuts and unplugged that, now we can get rid of this out of the way. So we've got these two things here. We got a dead end wire, and that goes to a plug connect here, so we'll just unplug that, and whatever this thing is, it goes up and it looks like it plugs in on the other side, so we'll just make those disconnections there and get them out of the way. And there they are, unplugged, and we'll remove them out of the way. And now it's looking a little less complicated here. Next, I'm going to go for some wires here that are just going above, if you could see this here. So that goes through the firewall and above the steering column. So over here on the engine side, we take a look, we got our steering column down there. It ends up being these wires here, and they go into this sleeve, and if you follow the sleeve, it goes to our switch and it goes to a horn. So we've cut that wire, we pulled it through the firewall, through the hole over there, and then the only thing, everything goes over to these two, the switch and the horn, and the only thing is this purple wire that goes the other way, and when you trace that down, that's just connected to one of the fuel injectors there. Got all that removed out of there. Had to remove the window washer jug. There's two screws on there, 10 mil heads. So remove that, get that out of the way in order for me to get at the Phillips screws that was holding our razzmatazz over here. And then we've got what's remaining of this wire. I purposely cut it like this so that it's not going to get forgotten about, and later on either I'll get right back in here and cut it off and then tape that up, or what I can do is I can put some shrink wrap on the end of this stub here and seal it that way. So another thing I'm doing is to try and make things a little bit easier is I'm disconnecting these these things from in behind the dash. Basically, we want to try and get a little space in here, at least so we can see things a little bit better and find out where these wires are hard connected to. Next thing here is we've got a red and blue wire plug, and that goes into the main body here. We disconnect that, and then it's all mixed up in some wires up there, but inevitably it comes out this way. So we pull that through, and there's the end, and we trace it up, and it goes into the top of our cowling and for the steering column here, and all that is like an LED light. So we've unplugged that. We'll disconnect that out of there, and we'll disconnect the wiring from the bottom of the steering column. We just snipped the wires off. We left that LED in there. That can stay. And there's the wiring there. So we've got that disconnected, and we can put our steering column back together. We've got the cowling put on back around the steering column here. This arm will just screw in there. You're gonna have to put that in last. Put the top and the bottom on. There's gonna be 2 screws to hold the top and bottom together. There's gonna be 1 screw that holds the whole thing to the steering column. 3 screws and your arm here for your tilt column. We've got this wire here, and when we trace it up, we follow it to the top. It's going to this blue and red wire that's connected to the body control module and the black plug. When we go to the manual here, that plug we're looking at is C240. C240 is the black plug that goes into the body control module. And when we take a look in here, we are looking at, it was a dark blue red wire, which goes to the park lamp relay output. So we've cut that free, the white wire that was connected to the dark blue and red off of the body control module. So we'll remove that, and then we'll see what's next. We're gonna follow this wire here, and we see that it connects to like a white tan wire into a green plug. So we go back to the manual here, and this is where sometimes things get a little bit hazy, because what we find in the vehicle doesn't necessarily match what's in the manual. I've identified that plug as the speed proportional steering control module because it's green and it has the same configuration as what we have in the vehicle. It's identified as C143. We're looking at C143. Doesn't look as the same as what we have in the vehicle, because in the vehicle that plug looks like it's over here with this assembly in here. Our list there doesn't identify a green plug in that location. And when we look at our basically in here, what we're looking at is I'm not seeing a white tan wire in here. We've got white and pink, we've got white, we've got white and orange. But the closest thing could be is that white and orange wire. And if that's true, then it's the vehicle speed sensor signal. But then again, that doesn't really match out either, because the pin location doesn't really match out. This would say that 6 is right there, but our wire looks to be like it's location 9. And location 9 is this one here. At any rate, we know that this is the plug, this is what it's going to, and it's going to be one of these. So we'll disconnect that wire and get that out of there. This green wire might be hard to see, but basically it was spliced into the yellow wire that goes to this map light under the dash. When I took the electrical tape off there, that connection actually broke. So this green wire is going to the yellow to the map light under the dash. So here's those two disconnected. This one was going to that green plug, and this one was going to that map light. And once we get rid of this, then the only thing we have left is these ones here to deal with. Looks like the rest of it is connected to this box here, which then goes to this plug here, which then are spliced into these power feeds in here. Looks like we are connected to our red and white. We've got our yellow, we've got a red in there, and we've got a black in the back there. And I think those are all the wires, the factory wires that those are spliced into. So we've got a black, red and white, and a yellow to trace down. Those will obviously be all of our power feeds. So this is what we're left with, and what I'm gonna do before I disconnect anything, because I think it serves the same purpose, is I'm just gonna disconnect this plug here. So with that plug disconnected and the rest of this stuff taken away, we'll see if we get some power to that fuel pump. Okay, again, here we go. We got no light. We're probing that power wire there. We got the key on, so we should have power back here, and we still do not. So that means the only thing left to do is to trace our wiring from this plug and trace it down through the body and see if we've got a problem spot there where we're not getting our power to the plug. So here's that plug here, here's the wiring. If we follow that wiring, it goes up through the floor here, and it's gonna go into the inside of the cab. Again, we refer to the manual on 8W-30-10. That takes us back to our fuel pump module. That was our C315 is at the back of the vehicle that we keep checking to see if there's any power. Again, we're going to go back. We're going to check from that location up to this location. We had proved that we had power all in here. So I want to take a look for C233 and C301. The information told us that it was over by that body control module. That was where we found all that command start anti-theft system that we removed. So we go back to that location again. Now if we take a look here, this is going to tell us that C233 is a black plug, and if you take a look there, that's that red locking tab. So now we know what kind of plug we're looking for, what kind of shape and color it's going to be. Now if we go to this page here, we're going to see that our plug C301 is a natural color. Again, it's going to look like that with that locking tab on there. So those are what we're looking for. So these are the two plugs that we're looking at. This should be C233, which was black, and this should be C301, which was the natural color. These are our locking tabs. You pop those tabs that way, you'll be able to pull the plugs down, pop the tab that way, press here to release, pull that down. So we've identified the two plugs, but look at here. This is a bit of a problem now. And this happens quite regular when you're dealing with vehicle wiring. The colors in the manual sometimes don't match what's in the vehicle. And I've come across this lots with the old Chilton manuals. You'll have the colors do not match. They'll change throughout. Might be similar, but they won't be exact. So we've got these three colors here coming into this plug, and we've got just these two coming out of this plug. And as you can see on both of these, none of them are a green wire. So I would expect that at least one of these plugs, this looks like it's power in, and this looks like it's power out. So I would have expected that we should have a green wire coming out of this one to go match to the back there. Now when we look again at the book here, C301, the natural plug, it shows it has 3 wires in there, and it does show that it has the dark green and white. But ours doesn't have that. Ours just has the black and the black and white. So that's a little bit confusing, because we're wondering where is our power wire to that plug in the back. When we go back to our C233, this is what I believe is going to be our constant power that's coming in that we were checking before. So the constant power comes in, and then it goes into that whatever that computer board is, or that junction box, or whatever we got going on there. So it comes in through here, and then it exits through the other one to go back to the pump. But when we go back to this page now, it gets a little more confusing, because it's showing that it should be a dark green white that comes into that plug. There's that junction within the power block, or whatever we want to call that thing, and then it exits out C301, which is again dark green and white. So this schematic is not representing what we have in the vehicle. If we look further here, we have our dark green and black going into the relay, and then it's coming out of the relay. When we further look at this little part of the page here, you're seeing that it's going to C154. When we take a look on this page, it's just listed as the power distribution center, and then if you want to take a look, you'd go to 8W-11-2. So back at 8W-11-2, this is just giving us our picture of our power distribution center here again. So when we go back to our page again, that's what we're looking at. You notice that that's the same number right here. So this is our battery to our fuse, which is going to the power distribution center. So this, in effect, is a loop right now, kind of thing. And then when you're turning your relay on, it's gonna give that power down this leg down here. So we still have to find out what our power wire is coming out of the fuel pump relay and going to these connections here. So the strategy now will be to try and find out what color wire is coming from that fuel relay down to the plug underneath the dash there. So we'll just take the top off of our fuse box, and then we know that this is our fuel pump relay, so that's what we're going to be looking at. The color of wires that are going to be connected on the bottom side of this here. But what I did was I disconnected this from the bracket. This is basically the configuration of the bracket that holds that fuse box in there, and then you got to get a flat screwdriver in here for this location and this location to disconnect that from basically those little catches there, one there and one there. And then you want to pry this out of the holder. And then there's going to be 3 fasteners. You got 2 13mm nuts that are going to hold it down right there. Those are the 2. And then you're going to have 1 10mm.
Hard to see, but that 10mm on the fender well is right there.
So those are your 3 fasteners, 2 13 and 1 10. And you remove that out of the way. And then we have a 13mm nut there, and that's what's holding on our power wires. We got this one here, and then we had these 2 here. This one's factory. This one is somebody's accessory power that they've hooked on there. So those 2 will come off of there. Now with all that disconnected, we've got more room to play with here. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to take our flat blade screwdriver, and we're going to depress all of these catches on both sides to separate the bottom from the top, and we just want to flip this over and see what color wires are coming out of there. We've removed the back off the fuse box here, and all you got to do is depress these tangs and then slowly pry that off the bottom, and you just got to be patient and careful because it's plastic and it could be brittle and it might want to break. So just take your time taking that off. And once you've got that off, now you've exposed the bottom, and we flip this upside down so we can take a look. When it's upright, that relay is right here. So now that we have it flipped upside down, it's going to be on the opposite side, so it's actually over here. And when we get a good look in there, we see that we have our green and white wire, and we see that we have our orange wire. I do believe the orange is the keyed on power, and then this must be our constant power that I think is the way that it goes there. So these are our 3 wires, blue, orange, and green with that white stripe in there. So that all plays out. That's what it's supposed to be. Yet again, when we come here to this plug, we don't have any of those colors on this plug, and we don't have any of those colors on this plug here. And these are supposed to be the 2 plugs that we're looking at to find that wiring.